Why so serious?
Sorry.
Are we on?
We're ready now.
Sorry, Joey. Hi again, guys. Super excited. We are on number 5.
5. Hard to keep track.
Yeah. We just shot one this morning.
We just filmed 4. I don't wear the same outfit every day.
No. And we discussed actually changing, but then we're like, you know what?
I was ready to change. Tamara didn't bring a change
I
of
wasn't
clothes.
feeling it. Take me as I am, or lose me forever. That's not how it goes, but anyways.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay.
Lead the way, Katie.
So we're gonna take a little bit longer to get on track here because we just did an hour. So make sure that you've checked that out as well. And if you've not checked out our other podcasts, they're up on YouTube. Today we're going back to talk about Tamara because we've already mentioned we thought it was going to be 1 hour that we'd be able to fit all of this into. But we have failed in that because there's too much to talk about.
Well, I think in a lot of people, when you're going through like different life experiences, you transform as well. And there's been a lot of transforming since we've kind of last talked back in January.
Oh, especially since we last talked with even like how you feel like day to day.
Yeah.
Change.
What to expect? I don't know.
So, I know that we've been getting really good trying to like prepare, be professional now. But I'm just going to set this aside for a minute because I know you've talked about it a lot to like your social media and you talk a lot about grief, and like I've learned a lot about like what grief actually is from you, and it's not always like what someone might expect it to look like or expect it to be, and how there's so many other things that you can grieve to just beyond like a death or losing someone. There's moments that you can grieve and you know, belongings that you can grieve and feelings that you can grieve.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, again, like we've kind of touched base on this, you know, grief isn't just a person dying. Grief is, in our society, grief is very flawed and looked at in a way. And really, it's such a universal thing for a lot of people. You know, it's just not a death out of order. It can be, you know, the grief of having a child, maybe not meeting those milestones, or having the grief over, you know, losing a job or not getting that potential job, or losing a friendship or a relationship. Grief is in so many ways because essentially love came first before that grief or that expectation
or like
or
hope, you know, that you have hope and that you can like have the feeling of being hopeless too, right?
Absolutely, right. And it's you're touching my feet right now, and you know,
I know it's because I'm worried that that's not what you said earlier about feet.
Actually hate feet. Sorry, that
will be for another video and another time.
Get back. I love you. You're my best friend, but get your feet away from me.
Tamara. She's never nice to me with my feet. She's been really mean.
No, just in general, I don't like feet.
One time in grade 9, she told me to shave my toes, and
That's
I've never forgotten that. She was in the bathtub. Anyways. Grief.
See, it's
good
just
grief.
Good grief. But yeah, no, it is. And so many people are expected to rush their grief too. And grief is such a weird dynamic. I mean, some days is good, other days it's not. And I think you just really need to feel out what today is going to be like.
I agree with you. I'm going to Google what is grief.
What is grief? Yeah. What does Google say what grief is?
Grief is deep sorrow, especially that caused by someone's death. Or it can be informal, trouble, or annoyance. Which,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
I experience a lot of grief in the trouble or annoyance realm.
Yes. Are you looking at your husband right now?
Yeah.
I roll. But Katie, like I want to bring this into it because you yourself are going through grief right now with
I know.
So what kind of grief do you experience when it comes to Owen?
Everything. I'm like, I'm on the spot. Everything, because
So tell people why you would grieve with Owen at times.
Yeah, do you want to talk about this today? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could talk about it another time, but maybe just
Sure.
touch
We'll
on
talk about it right now.
Touch on what you're grieving.
Owen has hearing loss.
Mm-hmm.
He is profoundly deaf on his right side, mild, moderate, high frequency loss on his left side, and just 2 weeks ago has been diagnosed with further hearing loss, 10% more hearing loss. So he has a cochlear implant. He has a hearing aid. So he is bilaterally devices, and he is very behind in speech. He had a congenital disease at birth. So yeah, we were asymptomatic at birth. He lost his hearing when he was around 16 months. And now we have just like started that journey of speech and hearing and appointments and surgeries. But also I think like grieving, like I mentioned in our last podcast, that like when you have a child, you think that you're going to have a healthy child and you don't expect there to be anything. And even when we got that call at 2 weeks old that he was positive for CMV, that, you know, they're saying like all these things can happen and you just still don't think that it's going to happen. I was like really naive, I think, about everything that went into it. Even like when he failed his first 2 hearing tests, I was like, oh, he's only 16 months. He's just tired, or he's just not paying attention.
In denial.
Yeah.
With grief.
But like truly, like not even in denial of like being consciously in denial, like genuinely, like just like didn't have a concern at all. It was like, it's literally going to be fine. Yeah. So then when he had his sedated ABR, that's when, we got that diagnosis. So now I think it's just like, it's different stages of grieving, right? So there's the grief that you go through that is fear, you know, fear of like, you don't know what this means, grief about the time that we've put into appointments and traveling, grief that I have about, you know, what opportunities, you know, is this going to change for him? Exactly. How is our life going to change? Grief over, you know, feeling guilty about the fact that this was like a congenital thing. And so grief that, you know, like going through guilt in that. And people can tell you like not to be guilty, but I feel like that's like telling someone not to breathe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can't not feel guilty. Your mom
instinct. Yeah.
And and then grief into just like, you know, daily struggle, like so much grief, and it has a lot of ups and downs. And I think that right now like is kind of a hard moment right now, because now that he's getting a little bit older and we're still having a lot of trouble with like communicating, so there's a lot of like worry and fear and concern that like we're not doing enough, or that he's not going to be ready for school, or that we can't communicate his needs. And
I find your mourning of what's to come, or what could be, or what should be,
it feels like unfair, obviously. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels unfair for sure. And I think that I have been trying really hard, like definitely like watching Gwen go through what she went through. I do think that also minimized for me in the moment, like unconsciously, like how difficult it really was going to be with like all the appointments, with having like the 2 teams. It's
exhausting.
It is a lot. And I didn't really like deal with it, I don't think, for a long time. So I think now that like, even because there was so many other things going on in our life, when we had like that bulk of getting the diagnosis, meeting our team, still already having a pediatrics following us, still already having infectious disease following us, still already having like audiology follow us to that point. But then we also then had a second audiologist, we had a second speech therapist, and all these things. So just like adding on more and more. But then we were also dealing with the loss of Gwen. I was dealing with expanding the business. I was dealing with weddings and bradal showers and bachelorettes and birthdays, and like
it aside, right?
Too many things. I feel like December came and then I was like,
and that's and essentially it is like when you get this news and like you did with Owen, and this is why I really wanted to bring you into this part of the podcast, is because grieving is exhausting, and you know, we tend to kind of put it on the back burner and not recognize the feelings that we're feeling.
Or just trying to like, push it aside.
You're just rushing it, right?
You're ready to deal with
it. You did that. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm tired. Like, this is fucking exhausting. And it really sucks at the end of the day. So I guess that's a good perspective on, you know, grief is very much universal. It's not just the death of an out of order circumstance.
And it's also too, you're very right in that, because I kept saying like, okay, like we've gone through all these things now. The store is opening. Our appointments are kind of like, we're going to have a little break in appointments. So I kept just saying like, get through December. We were also traveling, you know, there was a lot on our plate, and I think like I was just like, get through December. And then December came, and in January I was just so drained with everything. I actually feel like I've still not, and I put this on Instagram the other day, that I feel like I haven't recovered from the year. And I feel like maybe if I would have been more present in dealing with things as they were coming to me, which I couldn't at the time. Not rushing
through it, but you're learning, you're navigating, and I think that's
couldn't at the time. Was definitely on like just autopilot and just trying to get through it. And so now I just feel like wiped and like just super drained, and just like I just like don't want to deal with anything. I'm just really like shut down like with every aspect. But anyways, for sure.
So, and that's a good example. Right. So that's one of many examples that people feel grief, and it is exhausting because you do take yourself out of your body. Your brain goes on overdrive. You're quite literally running from a lion that's not behind you, but in evolution, that's what we've learned to do. And now it's like, okay, now I'm tired. And now I'm exhausted.
And now I just need a break.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love to talk about myself.
So no, I want to say thank you again for, like you said, coming in and allowing people to kind of understand your view and what you're going through with grief. So thank you.
Because it does show how we all experience. We're all grieving something.
So universal. And with grief, something that I've really come known to is grief brain. And grief brain is very exhausting. I find now that I've returned back to work, you know, I work in a very kind of mentally draining environment.
Fast-paced too.
Fast-paced. I mean, I love my job. It's a very rewarding job, but you're using a lot of your, it takes a lot of brain work to do what I do. And by the end of the day, I'm so exhausted. Whereas before, you know, I was working there and then going to a second job, a third job.
Going out to dinner, doing stuff with friends.
I was always on the go. I was such an extrovert. And now I'm just like, that took so much out of me to just, you know, go to the gym, go to work. Now I want to go home because I need to go home. I need to rest.
Yeah. But also be, I think, in your safe place too, because you love.
That's just it. But it is really frustrating because when I look back before all this trauma that I've been through, I just, even if I feel good, I'm still extremely tired because I have chronic fatigue. And that again comes with grief. And a lot of people will say, you know, grief is kind of like depression. And in a way it is, because you do feel symptoms internally and externally. And that's a big one that I've noticed. Some other things are that I'm very hypersensitive to things around me. Like
sarcasm.
Yeah. I'm very sensitive to sarcasm. We're learning this.
Okay, I'm putting my foot out, but I'm not
fine.
touching you.
And it's not just your feet. To be honest, everyone's.
Not touching you with it.
But I'm hypersensitive to the point where I don't like a lot of stimulation around me.
Yeah.
If the TV's too loud, it gives me anxiety. If the music's too loud, it gives me anxiety. It's just too much all at once.
Do you feel like you're reactive like now, or that you weren't before? Do you feel like you would react? But no, I think now actually, where maybe you would have been reactive, now you're like flight.
Yeah, I just remove myself.
Yeah.
Whereas before I would like full force.
You could deal with things, or you would address things.
Yeah. But now I'm like, I got to save my energy. So I'm just going to remove myself from the situation. And like, you know, I was mentioning to Alyssa earlier that I guess like now it's just, you know, I'm so busy at work that most days I'll just drive home in silence, where I would usually put a podcast on. Yeah. And, you know, utilize and my brain even more, but I just can't handle it.
You need the break.
I need the break. And that's another part of grief. Like, I'm grieving the person that I once was and who I'm developing into now. Yeah. Will I always be this hypersensitive to things? No. But this is where I'm at in my healing journey. Yeah. I'm irritable. I have lack of patience. I can go to 1 to 100 very quickly. I mean, I have a temper. I've always been that way. But even things, again, it's the hypersensitivity. It goes back to, okay, this is fueling me. I'm going to lose my shit if I don't remove myself from this.
Yes. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for
me,
you.
or can you relate?
No. Like, I mean, like,
Are you being sarcastic right now?
I've witnessed this recently. It sounds a little familiar, but no. Do you think that I have chronic fatigue, or do you think that I need to just take some vitamins?
I think you have both.
Like, I feel like I'm always tired.
That's just it. But I feel like you also stuff things away a lot of the time. No, I think you don't address them like you should. Like
because
it's easier to put them, like, right now it's easier to put them down, but in the long term,
because nothing matters anymore. That's how I feel.
So I feel like that's a problem.
I feel like it just doesn't matter.
But that's a problem, right? Like you want it to matter.
Like, I feel like things matter, but I feel like things don't matter.
In what sense?
Like, I feel like family matters and friends matter, and like things that matter.
You mean like
matter.
little things don't matter?
But
anymore?
I mean, like, yeah, and I mean things that maybe even things don't think are like little things. Maybe they're a big thing to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if it's like a little thing to me, then I'm like, that's a you problem.
Yeah, that's not a me problem. Mm-hmm. That's an issue, not an ish me.
Yeah, or like I'm like, okay, like the house is a mess. Like, it doesn't matter.
But see, okay, so, and that's true. But I'm now the kind of, and I've always been this way.
Yeah,
this your house is spotless. But it's the energy flow for me.
Yeah.
I need a clean desk. I need a clean house. I need a clean bedroom. If I write, I need a clean environment, because that's an energy flow for me.
Yeah.
And I'm more grounded and more energy based now than where I was before. Again, if someone asked me to do something, I'd be like, absolutely. Like, I'd have
You're always available.
FOMO, like if I miss something.
Yeah.
And now it's like I have to mentally prep myself for an outing or a get together, because I'm going to be tired probably 2 days after.
And you've also like learned to say no.
And it's very hard for me, because I want to be present. I want to be part of all these amazing things, but I also cannot get myself sick.
But it's funny that you've learned to say no and I've learned to say yes.
Yeah. Life changes, right?
Yeah.
And I know myself even months ago, you know, even when I was kind of breaking out of my box and I was starting to go out more, and it was really like I had to really self-talk. Like, okay, Tamara, you can do it, because I easily just wanted to be like, no, I'm not going.
Grief, though. And you didn't feel like you were allowed to have nice time, or you were allowed to be happy.
Yeah. But, and with that comes and so much energy. And I remember we would make plans and you're like, I honestly thought you would bail. And I'm like, no, but it took me a lot to get here. Yeah. So, but now I'm more likely to say yes. But again, I know that I'm going to be completely exhausted after an event.
But your friends are also like super aware of that too. Yeah. And like we also like know that. Well, even dinner this week.
Well, yeah. Like I had to cancel because I needed to
You're going to
talk
counseling.
with counseling. I needed to talk to counseling, and then I needed to go home. I needed to cry. I needed to just lay in my bed,
and it was going to
have
take
a
that
piece
out
of
of you.
pizza to myself, and that was that.
That's you getting also knowing yourself more.
Yeah, and self-aware.
And respecting yourself.
Self-aware, attending to my physical needs, body and mind, and being self-aware and saying, I could push myself and have a great time with my girlfriends who I miss dearly and catch up. But I also need this outlet because I'm feeling really angry. I need to cry to my therapist. And then I need to go home and just show myself some compassion and go to sleep and wake up and be able to do what I need to do the next day.
And you feel better, and then you're a better person, because even too, like right now, like as a parent, that like guilt of like taking time for yourself, right? Or
really need out.
or grieving who you were before you had kids and all these things. And I've realized now too, like I used to feel so guilty leaving the kids with my mom or leaving the kids with Joe, and now I'm like, see ya.
Yeah, I just need my time. You know what? They're fine.
I'm a better mom. Yeah.
And I think that again, it goes for so many people. And a lot of time I'll get this question. The question is, you know, how do I handle grief? Like my loved one died. I can hardly do anything. And honest to God, it's all you can do is just be self-aware and in tune to your emotions. Mm-hmm. Rest as much as you can, you know, rest your mind, but also fuel your body, drink that water, do those little things that's going to help you within the next hour.
Have you seen that TikTok?
Or within the next day. No.
There's like a TikTok that's like a trend going around right now. And it's like, they're like outside walking. They're like, I have really bad news. And they're like, if you wake up early, if you do your journal, if you go to the gym,
You said that to me the other day.
if you drink lots of water, if you eat healthy, you're going to feel better. I hate to tell you it.
It's very true though.
But you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
And like people sometimes just, I don't want to do that work. Like that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. But you're doing it for you. And like I said, there was a lot of days that I couldn't get out of bed, but you know what? I was like, I'm just going to get up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feel my body. I'm going to have a very big breakfast because I'm not going to eat the rest of the day, but I'm going to have a good breakfast. I'm going to take the meds I need to take. I'm going to
get outside with the dogs.
I'm going to go outside. Maybe I'm not even going to go for a walk, but I'm going to be on the deck with the dogs, getting in some sunshine, you know, being grounded with nature, because it is one of the most grounding things for us as humans is being in the nature. And then I'm going to go back and lay down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just being so aware, and then eventually, you know, moving your body, getting out of that, even going to a separate room and just, okay, I'm still sad, but I'm sad in a separate room now.
Yeah.
You know, and those little steps will eventually go to greater steps. Okay, now I'm ready to go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a girlfriend of mine, when I was in those moments of, I don't know what to do with myself, she, you know, bought me like a sticky notes and a bunch of markers and a little bin. And she said, just write down 2 or 3 things. It can just be getting out of bed, making yourself breakfast, taking the dogs for a walk. And that's what it was for the first few weeks. It was just attending to my self needs. And then she said, crumple them up when you're done, throw it in the basket. And then over time, this basket will be overflowed with things that you didn't think you'd be capable of. But now you're doing it. And I still have those first few days of things. Like it was quite literally like, get out of bed, brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Get out of bed, have a glass of water. And again, you don't want to rush your grief. You need to attend to those feelings because they're going to be there regardless.
It's interesting listening to you say this too. And just like this, I saw this like post the other day actually too. How much like grief and also like depression and anxiety kind of sometimes like need the same understanding, I guess. So like, you know, when people are saying like, I'm so depressed, I can't shower. So, okay, like you can't shower. So then like use dry shampoo. If that's all you can do, you know, I'm so depressed.
Put some water on your face.
I can't do the dishes. Use a plastic fork. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Like it doesn't always have to look how people expect it to look. You can modify your life to be able to make things tolerable and to be able to make things doable while you're dealing with this like mental
and you know what? As hard as it is in that moment, it will pass. This too shall pass. And it's so true. When you're high on life and you feel so fucking good, and there's moments where I'm like, I'm so good and high on life. Yeah. And I know in the back of my mind, this too shall pass because I'm going to feel shitty again. But it's life, right? And you just have to be able to move with it. Yeah. And you have to ride those waves
be present.
In and out. And I've learned that. I've learned like I'm not going to be happy all the time, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm not going to be the fun, loving, thrilled, you know, outgoing Tamara all the time, and that's okay.
And you are for the most part. Do you know what I mean?
But I'm okay with not being like, I'm okay with not being okay now.
Yes. But what it is though is that you have a better balance now because, right, like you know that you're not going to be okay. But in the beginning, you were, you know, sad, you were mad, you were angry, you were all these things, you were hypersensitive, you had all these symptoms, you were fatigued. But now that you have more control over your body, you do know that you're gonna have moments that you're hypersensitive, you're gonna have moments that you're having fatigue, you're gonna have moments that you feel angry and frustrated, but you're having less of those moments now than before because you are self-aware and you're dealing with it.
And I find people really just need to advocate for their needs. Like, if you don't want to do anything, don't fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what again, if people love you and are truly love you for who you are, they're going to understand. And at the end of the day, like, you're only failing yourself if you're doing something that you don't want to do. Yeah. Or if you're burning yourself out because you're the one that's you're the one that's gonna suffer. Yeah. You know? And again, like with grief, it's with the greatest love comes the greatest pain. And I think that's again what really correlates the two that I'm learning. You know, I have such love for this human being, and that's why I'm experiencing so much grief.
Right. The more you love, the more grief.
So beautiful. It is so beautiful to have that perspective, right? Because you know,
grief is just love.
yeah. And when you lose somebody you love so much, you don't just lose them, you lose yourself. And, you know, the day her heart stopped beating was the day that my heart did too.
I think you have said like so many times, just like seeing you go through this, there was so many times, even grieving the situation that Gwen was in when she was alive, being in the hospital, grieving all that. So many times did I hear you say, I don't even know who I am. No. I don't even know who I am. You know, you were Tamara. Then you were going through all these really difficult traumatic things. Then you were, you know, I'm a medical mom, and you were essentially just living through Gwen.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Right? Like you were not even home, you know, you were living through Gwen. You were just a voice at that point. Not just a voice, but do you know what I mean? Like your whole life revolved around her care, and there was no friend time, no socialization. Like I feel like you know, we didn't see much of each other because that was your entire life. And then when Gwen came home, things were getting a little bit, you know, more normal, and you were having routine. Gwen came to everything
with me. And I wanted that for her. I felt I missed out on so much. And especially during a pandemic, I'm like, you know what? No, like you're coming everywhere with me.
She was a part of everything.
I'm happy to hear that, but it's so right. You know, you're not the same person as you were before you walked into that storm.
For sure.
I'm not. Like, I mean, holy fuck. Like, and people are always like, you know, you're so strong. And it's like, but I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I didn't. And a lot of people that go through traumatic events, they don't have a choice to say, you know, I'm going to have this happen to me, and I'm going to be the strongest motherfucker out there.
I'm going to try to protect myself.
Yeah. And that's not it at all.
You don't have
the
choice.
What I mean? Yeah. Now what I'm left with is I almost prepare myself for things to happen wrong. And that's where I'm working through for therapy now, is trying to reverse those thoughts and trying to get off that fight or flight that not negative everything is going to happen. Yeah. You know, you will have children again, and it's very unlikely for that situation to happen.
Right.
But because it happened to you, now you expect everything.
Well, and that was your only experience too, right? It was your only experience. You don't know.
I know.
Yeah. You don't know exactly like what else you can be, you know, preparing for, because you didn't have a normal experience. It's not even like you had a great labor and that Gwen came full term and that you had medical problems after, which she would have still had medical problems even if she was born at full term. You know, with her TEF. So like, it's not even like you were able to have that regular birth experience. So from the beginning, for sure, everything was. And I think that, like what you said, like everyone's going to experience grief in some way. Like it's not just because of death. Like I think that that's really important to like also recognize.
I'm grieving Gwen's death now, but I'm also grieving of what should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I grieve, for instance, you know, meeting our best friend's baby the other day, and we're going over to see her, and you know, I'm grieving the fact that Gwendolyn can't be there in person to experience that, or I'm grieving the fact that she can't grow up with my friends' babies, you know, and things like that I feel like people take for granted. You do grieve what was, and at first I was in shock of her death, but now I'm more in shock of this isn't ever going to happen with her.
It's also though, like I remember you saying that, oh my god, my foot keeps falling asleep. I'm so sorry.
Okay, you can stretch.
Like going to the mall. You couldn't go to the mall for the first like
we didn't really get to do a lot of things.
Yeah, but you couldn't go to the mall because you didn't want to look at the clothes. And things like that. Remember when Gwen passed away, you couldn't go to the mall or do anything like that because it was just too hard on you. You couldn't see see mothers with babies, and you know, our friend just had a baby girl, and like you went to the hospital, and
so triggered,
which is a huge step to do, is go be in a hospital with a baby girl who we love so much. Shout out to Marley. Shout out to Maddie and Marley. But for sure, so I think that like is also like a huge step for you about recognizing, protecting yourself, and what you
for when you need to. And that's why I want people to know is, you know, you don't rush it, because you are going to get in those steps and strides. And it's kind of like Kate with Leo, you know, she would reach out and be like, how do you surround yourself around children? And I said, it didn't happen overnight, you know, and now she's with her friends and with their children. And it's so wonderful.
And I remember the first time that you came here, you know, and just like held Owen.
And I just cried, but I needed it, you know, and
it's that motherly
instinct
love that you have, though. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. You take good care of me too.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Ditto, girl.
I do my best.
Another question. So I asked you guys to kind of let me know what you wanted to know more about my situation and what I've been through is people wanted to know what may seem abnormal to others, but normal for a parent who just lost a child. And, you know, I know from my personal experiences and talking to others about losing their child that I remember the first few nights that I would actually sleep in Gwen's crib.
Yeah.
I would just cry and sob. And that's where I felt comfort the most, was being in her room. You know,
and still, you're still that way. You'll go in and read and write.
I still go in and, you know, I don't sleep in her crib, but her crib is still there. And I think, you know, in the near future, that's something that's going to be removed. I'm slowly going to remove things that were there because I don't necessarily feel Gwen in that sense there anymore. The rocking chair will always be with me wherever I go because that was a symbol, a very concrete symbol in our life. So I can't go without that. But there's certain things I feel like now, whereas before I couldn't go without, that I probably could for now. Right. This may seem a little corrupted to some, but for me, it was a very tangible thing. When Gwendolyn got cremated and was returned back to me, I slept with her ashes for a long time.
Yeah.
I would wrap them in her blanket. I would rock them. And I'm a very spiritual person in the sense that I know her soul wasn't there when she passed. But it was just a tangible thing for me to have.
Yeah, I understand.
I still have a lot of her unwashed clothes and bags.
Yeah.
That I will go and smell. And they smell like her. And I'm glad I did that. They'll always be in those bags.
Yeah.
You know, there's stains on them.
It's funny too because like I remember like in the beginning, like you didn't, I don't know if like you really like wanted to see anything really, like because you just didn't want to accept. And now all these things, even like wanting to move out of your house, right?
Yeah.
Now you're like,
and now I have such an emotional attachment.
Yeah.
To it because I think, again, it's hard to think that this new chapter of my life offers so many beautiful things and potentials, but knowing that she's not going to come into the chapter the way it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Avoiding the house and things like that. And like, I want to talk to you about like your parents. Like, what was some things that like your parents were also feeling like about this? Because you and your mom are like, well, you and your whole family are very, very close.
Yes. Wow. So my dad was very old. My dad's very old school.
Farmer John.
Hey, Dad. So when it comes to death.
Hey, John, which one of Tamara's friends is your favorite?
Don't do this to him.
He's going to say Kaylee. Your mom will say me, though.
I don't know. Will she?
Yeah.
Joe says, okay, don't go there.
Brittany's mom would say Joe. Joe's like flirting with Brittany's mom all the time.
Joe flirts with all our moms.
Joe flirts with my mom too. I'll be like, hey, when she comes to babysit, I'll be like, hey, Karen, you're looking good tonight. And
Aw.
Yeah.
You don't ever say that to us.
You know, the other day when we came back from Ryan's, he was like, you looked really nice.
She did. That's really kind of you.
Yeah.
What did you say back to that, Katie?
What did I say?
Did you say thank you?
No.
See, you need to learn to say thank you.
I was like, get the fuck out of here.
I'm going to bed.
Get away from me.
I'm going to bed.
No, I think we're still at the party anyways.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Your old school dad.
Old school dad, yeah. He would, Dad doesn't cry. I remember the night Gwen passed. We were all sitting around the room. You know, people were dropping in at that time of night. It was 10 or 11. And then we kind of laid down and got wet sleep. Not much. And I remember waking up at 3 a.m. to my dad coming back. And he's like, Tamara. And I came out to him. And him and my aunt were sitting there at the table. And I could tell then that I think it hit him then that she wasn't here. And I was like, Dad, what are you doing? He's like, I just couldn't sleep. And I think it's important to recognize that your parents aren't only mourning for the loss of their grandchild, but they're also mourning for the loss of you.
That
and what you're going through.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk about Gwendolyn and we'll have memories, and the odd time he'll shed a tear or two. But he was a really strong person for me. There would be days that I wouldn't eat,
Mm-hmm.
and he would make me a sandwich and like force me to eat it. He would come kick me up and say, you know, we're gonna go to town, come with me, and I wouldn't want to, but he's like, no, you need to stand up today, you need to come.
Even I think like the first time that you really like had a good time was his birthday.
It was his birthday, yeah.
And that was the first time after.
Gwendolyn was only 15 days after, and I wanted to celebrate him because, you know, I think it was important to still do that.
Yeah, well, especially like feeling that loss. You want to take every moment.
And it was beautiful because we were surrounded by parents and, by family and friends. But yeah, you know, Dad was definitely hard for me, strong. And that night I had a breaking point when I showed up to his house completely intoxicated. And he's like, you can't do this anymore. There's no more of this. And he would talk about, you know, when my grandma Gwen lost a sibling or different relations, and maybe he thought it would make me feel better, but it didn't in the moment. But now I could see his perspective on how he was trying to relate things to my situation. But yeah, he would just come and get me out of bed, and I love him for that. Not a very sensitive man, so I think that was his way of knowing what he could do and his duties of, okay, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to get you out of bed. I'm going to make sure that you're doing things that are for you still.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to protect you.
Yeah.
Too.
And protect you. My mom was essentially a huge caregiver to Gwendolyn, especially in hospital.
Yeah, very
much. Her and Gwen had a very close relationship, just like her and I do. And I wasn't the nicest to my mom, you know, days after. My mom's a very empathetic person. So she would cry and break down in front of me. And I'd say to her, why are you doing this? Don't fucking cry in front of me. And that's exactly what I would say to her. And I feel so upset now thinking back that I wouldn't let her cry in front of me. But I was just like, I can't support you. And she wasn't looking for support. I think she was just mourning.
She was going
for Gwen and mourning for me because I was a fucking mess. Mm-hmm. And it was minute by minute of what I would do and say. Yeah. So that was really hard too. You know, friends, again, you're not the same person you were before grief, and you're still trying to find yourself and still trying to maneuver it. And in those tough situations, life will test you, and sometimes you're not the nicest person. And I think really good friends will know that this is a situation and we're going to be there for her through it. Mm-hmm. And know that she is who the person she is. And this isn't always...
And accept you with like all of the bad and the ugly that comes
the
with
ugly,
it.
the really fucking ugly, the really fucking raw. Yeah. You know, there were days that I didn't even recognize who I was and what I was doing.
Absolutely.
And it is hard, like, you know, and even now, like, focusing on friendships and relationships, it's hard to put in the effort when you're just trying to feel good about you and your life and putting the energy into yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
you're still learning how to you know, and I know you talk about like having a lot of accountability, but you're still also learning to deal with those emotions as they pop up. Do you know what I mean? And you're absolutely right about like having a network of people around you that support you and see that and can be, you know, graceful, and that can, you know, only like care about you, like your emotions. Like, it's not about me. You know, if you're not feeling good, or if you're feeling angry, or if you're feeling sad, even if that comes out to me or to your mom or to your dad or to anyone, we know that
don't take it personally.
It's not about me. It's about how you feel. It's about what you're going through. And I think that it's also super important, and like seeing the situations that you've been through to make sure that you have the right group of people around you.
Yeah, it's very important. Pick your village. Honest to God, pick your fucking
they'll
village.
show up.
They'll show up. Actually, they'll show up. And they do.
You.
And I think after losing Gwen, there's a lot that have showed up that I didn't expect to. And there's a lot of others that haven't. And adios.
Yeah.
Right? Peace. No, but it is. And it is true. And some people can't handle grief. And it's, you know, and I think it's another question that a lot of people would say is, how do you support someone through their grief? And there's no manual to grieving, and I don't think there's any manual to supporting someone. It's just a big thing is us as people, we are naturally people fixers. We want to fix things, you know. That's where we run to, that's where we go to, and this isn't something that we can fix, and that's okay. I think it's just allowing that person room to feel the emotions, and just sitting with them and making sure that they know you're there, and checking in is a huge thing.
I do agree with you. And I just hearing you talk about that, it does make me think back to another scenario that I was involved in, that there was grieving, there was loss, and I stepped back from that emotionally. So I do understand, I know that the scenarios that we've been through, and when we say peace out, bye, it's because it was not pleasant situations.
No, these people were mean.
It was not pleasant situations, but I also know too, going through just kind of being there's been a time that I was had someone going through something similar, and that at that moment in my life I withdrew because I was not capable of mentally dealing with that. And I think that would have been fine if I would have been able to just communicate that better.
Just communicate, and honest to God, it is and I respect that. There's some people that are they have my best interest, and maybe I don't hear from them every day, but that's okay, because
they check in.
But and I wouldn't hear from them on a regular basis, but I know they love me, and I know that they're here with my journey and the transformation I'm making, and that's just fine.
Yeah.
It's the people that don't accept you on your worst, but only accept you on your best, is the ones that they don't deserve your energy.
Yeah, 1,000%.
They don't deserve anything from you. And I think that is one thing that I've had to learn through my journey as well. But, it is really hard. And I think it's just taking that pressure off of yourself, when you want to be there to be support, because it's not your job to fix it, and it's not your job to make things better. Yep. It's just your job as a friend or a family member to just be there, and have open communication. Yep. And even ask, what can I get you right now? Or what can I give you? Or what do you need from me?
$1 million.
Yeah, that would be nice. So, some really big things is, what not to say. And again, people have really good intentions, and maybe they just get caught up in the moment, and they don't really know what they're saying in that moment. But then they're like, good grief, did I just fucking say that?
I remember treading super lightly, and I do remember, we talked about this already, when you would talk about Gwen for a long time, you wouldn't talk about Gwen in past tense.
Yeah.
You talked about her in present tense, so then I would talk about her in present tense.
Yeah. And that was a thing for me. So I remember asking a friend at the time, how did you know when you accepted your dad dying? And she said, when I started talking about him in past tense. Mm-hmm. So I think at that moment, I didn't want to talk about her in past tense, because I wasn't ready to accept that she died.
Yeah.
But people say things like, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Let's just avoid that.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I know I'm saying these things with a huge heart, and knowing that, we all have mostly good intentions on helping people.
Yeah.
But some things, you're young. In my situation, people will be like, you're young, you will be a mom again. Of course.
Yeah.
But if you
but
think
it's not
of it
relevant. It's not relevant.
No, but if you think of it, when somebody, a child dies, your heart breaks into shattered pieces, and you're reassembling it. And yeah, I'm reassembling life, and sure, I'll have a family, one day, or however it may work out. But there's going to be ways it's not going to go back the way it is, and I might lose a piece, and that piece is Gwendolyn, and she is in a better place.
Yeah.
Where's that place?
Yeah.
Again, the best place is with me, is in my mind and my frame and my mentality, so that was a really hard one as well. Just making people feel that they're loved and supported, I think, is all that you can do, and just taking that pressure off yourself to think that you have to fix it, because you don't.
The dog doesn't listen to me ever. Okay, one of the things too that I think that people think that as a friend that you want them to be your therapist. Mm-hmm. And I know when we had Kate on, Kate didn't seek counseling. Kate didn't have therapy, and maybe that's not for everybody. Sorry. She just wants to know who's outside. I know that's not like everyone's path, and for Kate, it wasn't her path, and that's absolutely okay. But that was your path for you. So, you know, like, what have you learned from therapy? Like, what was that experience?
Yeah. You know, therapy isn't for everyone, and I'm not the kind of person that's going to push anything on anybody. Like, again, you're going to heal the way you want to heal. There's a good way of doing it, and there's maybe an improper way, but as long as you're safe. Sorry. Do you want
to grab her? Should we let her join us?
Okay. He's telling
she
us
just wants to
going,
be a
so
special guest. She just needs some attention.
Just needs some love.
Don't we all?
But it's again, even if you're in grief work, and doing it the right way, we believe grief should be just taken away instantly, and it's not. It's going to be with us for a lifelong. And I've learned that it's not going to be as intense. It's going to be further apart, but it's going to be there. I've learned in my therapy that there's no such thing as these know-in steps.
You've talked about that too,
again,
about
like,
the
you know,
steps of grief.
and it was, I think, very relevant at the time. I was like, well, I've heard of these steps. Right now I'm in shock, and then I'm gonna, you know, be really angry, and then I'm gonna be really sad, and then I'm gonna get here, and then I'm not gonna ever feel it again. And that's not the way at all. It's irrelevant. You're gonna feel those emotions for the rest of your life. It's all about how you go about them and being self-aware. It just, for me, grief counseling really put life and death in perspective, and making me feel like I was okay to feel these things. So for instance, I was talking to my counselor the other day, and with Gwendolyn's, you know, death date approaching quickly, and I was just like, I feel so fucking angry. I'm so mad. And then finding out all this information on the autopsy, it opened up a new box of it was like a Pandora box of emotions. And I'm like, I literally feel the way I felt the day she fucking died. And I'm literally saying this, like, I'm swearing, I'm crying, I'm angry. And I was like, I just feel like I put so much time, so much effort into becoming to where I am today. And she's like, Tamara, I'm going to stop you right there, because you going through these emotions is what you need to go through in order to take 10 steps ahead. You're not going back. You're going ahead.
You're dealing with new emotions.
What you need to right now.
And
we knew this is coming. We knew this was going to be a trigger of yours. They're fewer and farther less, fewer and farther, but this is a big one. And a lot of the time it's the anticipation leading up to it. So you recognizing that isn't 10 steps back. You're actually going 10 steps ahead.
I think too, with the autopsy, like, speaking to that we had been waiting on it for a really long time. And I think you do assume, right? There was a lot of things in question. There was a lot of possibilities kind of placed into your mind, like, as you started getting like little tidbits here and there. And so I think you are like, okay, I need to know. I want to know. And then you feel like that's going to like put it to bed, you know, but it was not that.
And I knew, and I kind of prepared myself, because again, my counselor said, you may not get an answer that you're anticipating, or you may never get an answer. Like, sometimes it doesn't come back with a definite answer. And I remember having to wait, and it was just getting to the point where it was exhausting. And my mom actually wrote a report to the coroner and said, listen, I'm going to put things into perspective. This was my granddaughter. She was heavily involved in gymnastics. She was planning to go for dance in September. She had all these things lined up. She loved the birds. She loved nature. Pizza was her favorite food. And I think, she really had to say that this little girl was a living soul, and this is complete fucking torture. So what's going on? The day later, we received the report. And that sucks, because at this point I was so tired. I was like, I'm tired. I can't fight anymore for this. But when I got that report, it put me down. It put me down, and I'm still down from it. Not so much as it did before, but we're on 3 weeks now. And it's brought me closure. But no, sorry. Even the coroner said, I can't give you closure in this situation. Nothing will ever give you closure. Losing a child, it should never happen. But I do know that there was nothing I could have done. There was nothing anybody could have done in this situation. I think any mother wants to know that for certain. And I just needed it in my hands stating everything.
For sure.
I have that, but there's still more to the story that we need to like go about and figure out.
For sure.
So that's definitely a new thing that's
and when
tackling.
Gwen passed away too, like you did like a type of therapy, like that wasn't like you did your counseling, but then you did this like type of therapy,
EMDR, and we touched base on that our first podcast, and that was centered around my triggers. So being through a very traumatic situation and having Gwen die in my arms the way she did, and just, you know, when you're triggered from PTSD, it's not just the memories, but it's the smell, it's the noises, it's the flashbacks that will literally haunt you.
Well, it's even your environment, right?
Yeah,
like you're in
everywhere.
your home, and
I noticed like myself, you know, I would be doing something and then I would drift off and I would remember things, and then I wouldn't come to until later, and it would just write me off. So this therapy really helped me open up those pathways in my brain that I had been shutting off, and opening up new doorways to, you know, recreate that situation in my head.
Right.
Surely, you know, it's never going to resolve what I've experienced that day, but that isn't such a powerful thing for me anymore.
Right.
So it did remarkable. It was remarkable for me in my healing journey, for sure.
Interesting. And then you also recently saw a medium.
Yeah. And it's, again, I'm not somebody to push anything on anyone. And I think, you know, I'm very open to different beliefs and evolution and whatnot. But after losing Gwen, I'm a little bit more spiritual, in the sense that, you know, we can't create energy, nor can we create it, nor can we dispose of
Take it away. Yeah.
You know, so to think that it's impossible is crazy to me. So yeah, after a really long time, I said to my mom, you know, I'm going to seek a medium. And even my mom was a little taken back. She's like, oh,
I'm surprised to hear your mom was.
Yeah. I think she was a little bit more scared. Like,
right.
Is this witchy stuff? And a lot of people think, you know, like medium is that witchy stuff, but it's really not. I think, you know, these are people that are very in tuned with the energy and the senses around them, that they can have that connection. And out of all of the therapy I've done, I think meeting with this medium who had no idea about my story, and even things that were happening in my life at that moment that she talked about, brought me more closure than anything ever could.
Right.
For instance, my dad being in the hospital, she knew somebody was in the hospital. She knew he would be okay. You know, and these are things that she's telling me that if it didn't happen, she could be in a lot of trouble, right? Like a lot of misconception. And you know, there was at one point she was talking about a dog, and you guys, if you're following my journey, you know that I have an obsession with my dogs, Jude and Cash was Gwendolyn's puppy. And, you know, she would say there's this dog and he's all over me and he's tugging at something in my hair, and he would always tug on Gwendolyn's pony.
Because Cash was a puppy when Gwen was a little baby.
And my mom, when she said those things, my mom almost fell off her chair, because it was such like a holy shit, this is real. And she would come in tune, and she said, you know, I have a feeling that you don't know the answers to Gwendolyn's death, but they will come, and you will find what you need to know. And that was so inspiring to me. And again, she would just touch into base and things that, you know, I'm still like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that was completely remarkable for my journey.
And worth your time. And
100%. And just so much in tuned with things.
Also probably feels too like you had like another moment with her.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? Like that you had like.
And that's what she said to me. You know, she said it's hard being a medium at times, because you see the loved ones and you bring them forth for their loved ones most of the time. They can't visually see them, but you can right in that moment. And she would describe to me how beautiful and essential she would, like, just with so much grace, and you know, she was a healthy thing in her new body and mind.
Yeah,
and it was just very reassuring.
Comfort for you,
you know, and there were other people that came through, and it was very touching for me. So it was an incredible experience,
right?
And something that I would do over and over again for sure.
Helped, yeah, in your healing journey. I think that's so impressive. And I think next time too, like I know that we have a few more podcasts planned as well. I know that you are like wanting to talk about joining a group with other grieving parents.
Yes.
I know that you have some up and coming plans with your boxes of sunshine. I'm not sure if you want to talk more later on about the autopsy report. I know that we have some
down the road, absolutely.
For sure.
No, I mean, there's so many people that's been following within our journey, and I feel that have such a love and connection with Gwendolyn, even if they haven't met her, that deserve to know too. So I know once we know more the direction we're heading with things, I will definitely share that with everyone.
Yeah, so good. Well, you don't have your cup where I'd cheers you, but
we have to do a cheers.
These will be available
in here, but yes, April 1st. We are doing a pre-sale order on all of these beautiful cups. So again,
Kira from Sunshine and Coffee.
Shout out to you, Kira.
She's in Kingston.
Yeah, so we will be doing
Her product is available at Good Home Collective as well in Napanee.
Great store, by the way.
Excellent shop. Cheers.
Love you. And
you can put your pre-orders in on Instagram.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I'll make a post and let everybody know about that.
She'll make a post. Okay.